You've typed out a real question, real numbers behind it, real stakes, real constraints specific to your business. You hit send, and what comes back is technically accurate and completely generic. The kind of answer that would work equally well for any business, anywhere, at any stage. And that's a pattern matching problem. And it has a specific cause that, once you understand it, you can eliminate from almost every prompt you write. Here's a situation most people recognize. You had a specific problem, real numbers, real constraints, real history, and you described it in general terms because you that felt like enough. What came back was correct, organized, professional, and completely detached from your actual situation. The gap between correct and useful is exactly what this video is about. And it's a gap you created, not the model. Every conversation with AI starts at zero. The model has no memory of your previous conversations, unless you're using a tool specifically built for that. It doesn't know your business, your numbers, your team, or your constraints. None of that exists in the prompt unless you put it there. When details are missing, AI doesn't stop and ask for them. It fills them in automatically, using the most statistically common answer, the response that fits the broadest possible version of your question. And it's not a flaw, it's exactly how pattern completion works. The problem is, most people don't realize they're leaving those gaps open in the first place. AI was trained on an enormous amount of text, conversations, documents, guides, forums, across every industry and context imaginable. When you ask a question without providing much specificity, the model finds the center of that distribution, the response that would be most accurate across the widest range of situations. The center of that distribution isn't a wrong answer, it's the best answer for the average case. But the average case covers a cleaning company, a consulting firm, a regional insurance office, and a dog groomer simultaneously. If your output could apply to all four of those businesses equally, it's calibrated to none of them. And that's not useful. That's a starting point you still have to do the real work on. And this connects directly to the pattern completion framework from the Making AI Make Sense series. Every prompt activates a matching process. The model scans everything it was trained on and finds the closest match to what you gave it. A vague prompt matches the broadest available pattern. The output is wide because the input was wide. A prompt that describes a specific situation matches a much narrower slice of that pattern space. The output is precise because the input eliminated everything that didn't fit. The scenario isn't extra information you add to be thorough. The scenario is the filter, the signal that tells the model which patterns are relevant and which ones to leave behind. That distinction is the entire mechanism. A scenario has four components, and each one is doing a specific job. Actors tell the model who's involved and what role they play, not just my team, but who these people actually are and what relationship they have to the situation. Context tells the model the current state of things. What has happened? What's about to happen? What's at stake? Constraints tell the model what limits or pressures exist: budget, capacity, timeline, relationships. And an objective tells the model what a successful outcome actually looks like for this specific situation. When all four are present, the model isn't searching the full pattern space. It's searching the part of the pattern space that matches your specific combination of inputs. A fundamentally different process produces a fundamentally different output. When one or more of those four components is missing, the model doesn't flag the gap, it fills it. And it fills it by drifting toward what's most common across the situations that resemble yours. The model's doing exactly what it was built to do, finding the best match for what it received. The issue is that vague input has many valid matches, and the model picks from all of them. landing somewhere in the middle. The more you describe your actual situation, the fewer patterns qualify as a match. The closer the output gets to something that's genuinely built for you. Most people treat these as interchangeable, and they're not. And the difference matters. A topic tells the model what to talk about. I need help with pricing is a topic. It names a subject and opens a wide door. A situation tells the model what specific conditions to match patterns within. Your costs, your capacity, your market, your goal. That's a fundamentally different instruction. It tells the model not just the subject, but the constraints that have to be true for the answer to be actually useful. Same core question, different input signal, and a completely different pattern match. Before you write any prompt where the quality of the output matters, answer the 4 scenario components in your head first, or write them down before you write the question. Who's involved and what do they need? What's the current state of things? What constraints or pressures are in play? What does a good outcome look like? Answer those first, then write the prompt. The order matters more than you'd expect. When you write the question first and try to layer context on afterwards, you'll almost always leave something out. Building the scenario before the question forces you to think through your actual situation. And that process alone often clarifies what you're really asking. 2 versions of the same task are coming up. The first has no scenario. Watch what the model defaults to when every pattern is equally available, and ask yourself whether anything in that output required knowing anything specific about the business. The second has a complete scenario. Watch whether the output could apply to any other business, or whether it's clearly anchored to one specific situation. That's the test. If the output could belong to anyone, the scenario isn't doing its job. The weak prompt. I need to figure out how to price my services. What should I charge? The output. Consider your costs and target profit margin. Research what competitors charge in your area. Think about perceived value and your target market. Start lower to build a client base and raise prices as you grow. Every one of those bullets is correct. Every one of them could apply to a cleaning company, a consulting firm, a dog groomer, or a web designer. Equally well. There's no pricing recommendation, no specific number, no strategy tied to any actual constraint, because no constraints were provided. The model matched the broadest available pattern for a service pricing question and landed exactly where you'd expect, at the center of the distribution. The output is a starting point for thinking about pricing, not an answer to a pricing question. And that's what you get when the pattern pool has no rails on it. Here's the strong prompt. Small residential cleaning business, mid-sized Midwest city, 2 part-time employees, $120 per standard clean, 2.5 hours per job, $800 monthly fixed costs, $18 variable cost per job, 30 jobs per month at capacity. Competitors charge $140 to $160. Goal, raise prices without losing core clients. Here's the output. Current margin per job is approximately $95. At $140, strong margin is retained while closing the competitor gap. Already at capacity means clients can't easily replace you. Recommend a phased rollout. Notify loyal clients 30 days in advance with a personal explanation before raising rates publicly. The scenario replaced the average with a specific match. The capacity observation that this business is already at capacity isn't generic insight. It's directly tied to what was described in the prompt. And it changes the strategic logic entirely. A business with open slots should price differently than one turning away work. The model got there because the prompt gave it the information to make that distinction. None of that output could apply to a consulting firm or a web designer. It's anchored to this situation because the scenario eliminated every other situation from the pattern pool. And that's the mechanism working exactly as it should. The difference at the pattern level. Without a scenario, the model matched patterns from any service business, any market, any cost structure. The output was the statistical center of all pricing conversations, broadly accurate and specifically useless. With the scenario, the model matched patterns from this cost structure, this capacity, this competitive position. The output could only have come from this specific set of inputs. And the cost of not doing this is real. A manager who sent that first output still has to figure out the actual number, the timing, the client communication strategy, and whether their capacity situation even gave them leverage. The scenario does that work up front. The alternative is doing it yourself after the fact, or skipping it entirely and guessing. The transferable principle: a topic tells the model what to talk about. A scenario tells the model what situation to match patterns within. The difference isn't in how long the prompt is. It's in whether the output is generated from the average or matched to your specific situation. Your judgment is what makes the scenario work. You supply the four components. If a detail is missing, the pattern match follows that gap and fills it with the average. The model can't verify your numbers, your client relationships, or your market position. The output is only as accurate as what you put in. That means the scenario is your responsibility. Give the model your actual situation, and it has what it needs to find a specific match. Leave gaps open, and it fills them for you. And you won't know where. Every technique in this series builds on the same pattern completion framework. The more of them you understand, the better your judgment gets across every prompt you write, including situations this series will never specifically cover. Prompting templates and resources are over at eauclairai.com. And if you want to work through how any of this applies to your specific business, reach out to us at Eau Claire AI directly. And thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.